What is democracy for kids? Hey kids, have you ever asked yourself, what is democracy? You may have heard that term democracy. You may have also learned that the system of government that we have in the United States is called a democracy, and that being a democracy is an integral part of what makes the U.S. such a special place to live. But why? Why is being a democracy so special? And how exactly do democracies work? Well, think about it this way. Let's say you and your friends are hanging out on a Saturday morning, trying to decide what to do that day. Maybe someone wants to play soccer, and someone wants to play a board game, and perhaps a third friend suggests playing tag or diving into a board game. And maybe a fourth friend really wants to go to the mall. How do you decide what to do? Well, you could all discuss your options and come to a group decision. In that case, everyone would have a say, and the group would come to an agreement. That way, figuring out what to do is not just one person's decision, but everyone's. That's only fair, right? That's kind of how democracy works. In a democracy, the government is run by the people. The people who serve in the government are elected by a majority of the citizens, based on who they think are the best people to run the country. In addition to the president, the representatives of Congress, and the senators, who are elected members of the national government, there are also many local elections, in which citizens of towns, cities, states, and communities elect mayors, state representatives, council members, governors, judges, sheriffs, and others. Elections happen all the time in a democracy, and the winners are determined by whoever gets the most votes. In the United States, everyone over 18 years old can vote for the various people who will represent them and their interests. While younger people can't vote, that doesn't mean you don't have a say. You can express your opinions to your parents, your friends, or your teachers. You can go to community events if there's something that you want to be changed or fixed. You can write letters to your representatives. You can protest in the streets for things you're passionate about. There are lots of things you can do. Just like everyone around you, in a democracy, you have free speech and can express your point of view so that people running for office can take into account what's important to you and those around you. Democracy can be best summed up in the phrase, one person, one vote, meaning that everyone's vote is as important as everyone else's. But in practice, there are different types of democracy. First, let's talk about direct democracy. In direct democracy, every citizen votes on nearly all critical decisions. Here's an example. Let's say someone proposes a tax on ice cream in your town. For every ice cream cone sold, the local government would get 2 cents to help pay for local town projects. Some people might be in favor of it, and some against it. In a direct democracy, the people in the town would each have one vote to decide whether or not to impose the tax. If more people voted yes than no, the tax would be put in place. If more people voted no, then it would not. This form of direct democracy was widespread in ancient Greece, where democracy was actually born. Back then, everyone would gather together and cast their votes. That process worked because the population was much smaller at the time. These days, with so many people, direct democracy is much more difficult. Can you imagine getting all 150 million people to vote at the same time for every little decision that needs to be made about the country? That would be almost impossible. This form of democracy is also sometimes called a democratic republic. In this type of government, people elect representatives that have the same opinions that they do in hopes that their interests will be reflected in the decisions made. The United States is a democratic republic. We elect people to vote on our behalf in Congress. Let's go back to our ice cream tax example. In a representative democracy or a democratic republic, each citizen wouldn't vote on whether the tax would be imposed, but instead, their representatives would do it. So the people that the citizens elected would make the final decision about the tax. In your school, you may see both types of democracy in action. Your whole class might vote on something like what kind of cake to have for a student's birthday. Here, each kid would get an equal vote. That would be direct democracy. Or for more significant issues, like whether to have a school dance on Friday or Saturday night, you might have a student council that was elected by the students make that decision on behalf of everyone. That would be a representative democracy. In both forms of democracy, everyone gets a voice. That equal vote is the unique thing about this system of government. So, what are some of the other common characteristics of democracies? In all democracies, there are free elections. This means everyone gets a secret vote, meaning they're free to vote for whoever or whatever is on the ballot, or even write someone else in, without interference from elected officials. In the United States, you must be 18 years old to vote. Democracies also feature something called majority rule. In majority rule, whoever gets the most votes wins. When representatives do the voting, whichever group gets the majority wins. Majority means more than 50% or half of the votes. In the United States system of government, representatives are not allowed to vote to change our individual rights. We have the freedom of religion, for example, so representatives can't vote to change that or other personal freedoms in our Constitution. Most democracies also have term limits, meaning someone can't rule forever. The U.S. president can only serve for 2 terms. In some states, there are other rules about how long people can serve. Also, in a healthy democracy, every elected official is bound by something called checks and balances, meaning they can't abuse power because others in the government are making sure they don't. Finally, every democracy is made up of citizens. For a democracy to thrive and be successful, the citizens who live there must be willing to do their part, which means they get involved, speak out, and most importantly, vote. They need to know who they're voting for, understand the issues, and voice their opinions. In this way, whatever is in the best interest of the people will be reflected in the people elected. So, in summary, why is democracy so great? Generally, people who live in a democracy have more freedom and rights than in countries that are not democracies. People in democracies usually have a higher standard of living, are better protected, and have the type of society they prefer. Of course, not everyone will always be happy with the decisions made in a democracy, and it's up to everyone to continue to try to improve the society by being informed and voting for the people they think will serve them best. When an election rolls around, people get a new chance to vote for the people they want to lead the country. Nobody should take democracy for granted. There are always some people who would prefer to have all the power for themselves. It's up to all of us, including you, to make sure democracy thrives, remains healthy, and continues long into the future.